We got an unexpected update on the Horizon series that's in development at Netflix, signs of life from Ubisoft franchises we haven't heard from in a bit, and there's potentially an Elden Ring show coming in the future. Plus we have some new game announcements from Capcom, including a new release in a major franchise, so a ton to go over. And by the way, Jordan's currently out of office, so I'll be standing in until he's back for the Sunday videos. But let's start with one of my favorite games of the year so far, Dragon's Dogma 2, which just got even better. A big part of the discussion surrounding launch were regarding the game's performance and the lack of graphical options. And while previous patches already addressed performance issues, the most recent one also gives players a high or low graphics option on consoles. Digital Foundry did an excellent analysis of the patch, reporting that at this point most major performance complaints have been addressed and fixed. If you haven't tried the game out yet, you'll also be happy to know that there's currently a limited time free trial going on that's available until July 18th. You can play 2 hours of the game and keep your save data if you decide you want to keep playing after. I highly recommend you give Dragon's Dogma 2 a shot because, as I said, it's one of my favorites of the year so far and it's only gotten better with the newest patch. Staying on the note of big fantasy RPGs, we also got some new information on Dragon Age the Veilguard this week. Still not used to that name, but I digress. Now what I found very interesting is the game's approach to difficulty. Thanks to Game Informer, we now know that there are 3 main difficulties. Storyteller for if you don't want to focus on combat, Adventurer for a balanced approach, and Nightmare for, well, a true nightmare of a combat experience, of course. You're also locked into Nightmare if you pick that one, by the way, so that will be a true test of your skills. But the most interesting one is a 4th customizable difficulty called Unbound. Here you can tweak individual aspects of difficulty like parry timings, enemy health or damage, or their aggressiveness. You can even turn off death if you are so inclined, so no matter if you want an ultra challenging experience or a more accessible one, you can tweak every individual aspect of difficulty in this Unbound mode. And if you want to learn more about the Veilguard, we included it in our Open World Games Roundup video, we'll link to that one in the video description. We also have good news for Star Wars fans, as Star Wars Outlaws has officially gone gold pretty far ahead of its August 30th release date. For comparison, Avatar Frontiers of Pandora went gold on November 13th and released on December 7th, so that's almost exactly a month before launch. But Outlaws development apparently went even smoother, meaning the game is ready for launch and the team can keep polishing and bug fixing until the final release. I've still got my hopes up for this game, especially with the interesting outlaw mechanics like gang reputation or specialists to learn new skills. But yeah, with Outlaws going gold, that also means that apart from the teams working on the 2 story expansions, most of Massive will probably start shifting their attention to the Division 3, which was announced in September last year. And we have more Ubisoft updates and gaming news, so if you like these big Sunday news roundup videos, leave a like and make sure to subscribe, as we do one of these every week. And while The Division was definitely a franchise I expected to make its return, we also got an update on another Ubi franchise this week, and that is surprisingly enough, Watch Dogs. And no, it's not a new game, but instead a sneaky update on the Watch Dogs movie that was announced ages ago. The clipboard obviously shows the movie is currently being filmed, but unless I'm missing an Easter egg or hidden secret, I don't think there's much more we can learn from this. We already knew that Matthew Turi was going to be the director, and the other name on the board, Daniel Masachesi, is a cinematographer. I am sorry if I butchered those names, by the way. But yeah, in June, Deadline also reported that 2 actors, presumably for the lead roles, had been cast. Those being Hunger Games star Tom Blythe and Sophie Wilde, who played the lead in Talk to Me. So it really looks like production is picking up on the movie, which is kind of surprising to me. The last time we took a look at Watch Dogs, which was in 2022, it didn't look like there was a lot left for the franchise. We'll link to that video in the description for if you're curious, by the way. But yeah, maybe with the recent success of video game adaptations, Ubisoft is hoping that a different medium can breathe new life into Watch Dogs. I'm curious to see how it all pans out, but there's even more Ubi franchises showing signs of life, right Joyce?
That's right, Dennis, because believe it or not, there is some news about Beyond Good and Evil 2. The 20th anniversary edition of the first game is out now, and Ubisoft added new content to the game in the form of a treasure hunt quest. It includes things like new skins, but probably the most interesting part they added is a narrative setup for the upcoming sequel. Or I guess I should say the prequel, since the story will take place before the first game. During this quest, you will find items related to the characters who we already saw in the cinematic trailers, like the Rogue Nox and Chief Engineer Callum, with video diaries giving you a deep dive into their history and their connection with Jade. At the end of the quest, the game shows a brand new cutscene revealing a very very important character to Jade, telling her about her past. Won't spoil anything, but it definitely tells us that the sequel is still in development, also being confirmed by Ubisoft themselves on X, by the way. And I have to be honest, after playing this new content myself, it makes me very curious and excited to see what Paige and his pirate gang were up to before Jade's adventure. It also gives me a new sense of hope that we hear more about the sequel sooner rather than later. A reminder to us all that the last announcement for Beyond Good and Evil 2 was back in 2017. So yeah, I think it is time for a big proper update. Back to you, Dennis.
Thanks, Joyce. Now, we also got an unexpected and probably unintentional update on the Horizon series that's in development at Netflix. All of this has to do with an extensive report by Rolling Stone journalist Cheyenne Roundtree, who wrote a big article on Umbrella Academy showrunner Steve Blackman, who was also leading the Horizon series. We'll leave a link to the article in the description, but the short summary is that multiple people who formerly worked on the show have accused him of toxic behavior, bullying and worse. The part I want to focus on is an update Cheyenne posted after the article went live, stating that 2 of Umbrella Academy showrunner Steve Blackman's projects that were in development at Netflix, a Horizon Zero Dawn series and an original series Orbital, are no longer moving forward. Now, that sounds like a pretty definitive no more Horizon show, but I want to clarify a couple of things. First is that we have no confirmation from official sources because Netflix, Guerrilla and Sony have not confirmed or denied this information yet. Second is that while Roundtree notes the projects are no longer moving forward, she did not clarify if those projects aren't moving forward at all or if that they will be moving forward but without the involvement of Blackman. And considering how much Sony is banking on Horizon as a franchise, and again with how well video game adaptations have been doing recently, I think it's unlikely that they fully cancel the project. Sure, losing your showrunner is a big setback, and that's again if Roundtree's report proves true, but canning the entire show over that seems unlikely to me. I think it's more likely they look for a new showrunner or even a new partner, which would make Cheyenne's statement about the show no longer moving forward at Netflix be true as well. I'm keeping my eyes peeled for an official announcement, but this Rolling Stone report does make it seem likely that the show is even further away than we thought. And it honestly sounds like in a couple of years we'll be swimming in video game adaptations, as we also received some teasers for an Elden Ring movie or show. Both Hidetaka Miyazaki and George R.R. Martin commented on the possibility of that happening. Miyazaki stated that he doesn't see a reason to deny an adaptation of Elden Ring, but they'd need a strong partner to do so, as FromSoft don't have the knowledge to produce something in a different medium. Meanwhile, George commented on the rumors in his own blog with the following: "I have nothing to say, not a word, nope, not a thing, I know nothing, you never heard a peep from me." What rumor? Well, if you have nothing to say, then why'd you bring it up, George? He obviously knows what he's doing, but I do think that these teasers are indicative of early discussions on the project, and going by Miyazaki's comments that they're still looking for the right partner. How you adapt Elden Ring is of course a big question as well, as it is very cinematic but in a different way from games like God of War or The Last of Us. I'm personally hoping it ends up being a prequel series and we get the full story of Marika from her perspective, especially after all the new info we got from the DLC. Will likely be a while before we hear more, but it definitely sounds like they're cooking something. Okay, back to some actual game announcements now, as Capcom had their next showcase this week and revealed 2 new titles. One is a deluxe remaster of Dead Rising, and if you're wondering what a deluxe remaster is, it's pretty much a full-on remake. The game is now running on the in-house RE engine, which allows for much improved character models and animations. There are also a ton of quality of life improvements included in this version, mostly modernizing some of the game's features, like giving you the ability to move and aim and adding an autosave feature. Capcom of course has an excellent reputation when it comes to remaking old games, so if you're a fan of Dead Rising, mark September 19th in your calendars, as that is when the deluxe remaster will be releasing on PC, PS5 and Xbox Series X and S. But the biggest reveal of the show is that Capcom is officially working on the next mainline Resident Evil game. While we of course had the incredible Resident Evil 4 remake last year, the previous mainline entry Village came out back in 2021, so yeah, I'd say it's high time for a new entry. While we know very little, one piece of info that has me very hyped is that the next RE game is being directed by Koshi Nakanishi, who also directed Resident Evil 7 Bioshock. Biohazard. That game majorly reinvented the series formula by shifting to a first-person perspective and using a smaller but much denser setting than the previous mainline entries. Nakanishi actually broke the news himself, saying it was really difficult to imagine what to do after 7, but that his new idea for the next game feels substantial. I'm very curious, as I imagine we could see another big overhaul for the franchise with this new game. Resident Evil Village pretty conclusively wrapped up protagonist Ethan Winter's story, so I'm guessing we either continue as his daughter Rose, or we're going back to series veteran Chris Redfield, who also played a role in Village. There have been rumors that this new entry would feature an open world, so that could be very cool, but for now we at least have official confirmation it's in development. We also learned about Suicide Squad's next season starting on July 11th and the new playable character, Mrs. Freeze. Yeah, you heard that right, it's Mrs. Freeze because the game is continuing its multiversal take on beloved DC characters. The rest of the roadmap is pretty much what you'd expect, with new weapons and new content for the Elseworlds endgame mode. We do also finally get an Arkham-inspired outfit for Harley, but it's listed under shop items, so you have to pay extra for it. And yeah, with the recent Bloomberg report stating that many Rocksteady employees are now helping out on a Hogwarts Legacy director's cut, I don't think Suicide Squad is going to receive the big meaningful changes it needs to bring in a steady player base. A superhero game that could totally do that is Marvel Rivals, where you play as various Marvel heroes and villains in PvP battles. The game itself is looking surprisingly good, but the character designs are even better. We just got some new gameplay with Spidey, showcasing some of the different suits on that character as well, and yeah, I must admit I kinda wanna play this now. If you feel the same, you can sign up for the closed beta that will be going live on July 23rd and continues until August 5th. Although this month might actually also be a good one to clear out a bit of your backlog, as there is not that much happening when it comes to releases next week. I'm not complaining though, I still have some Elden Ring bosses to get back to, and on July 9th we also get the full release of Once Human, a pretty interesting open world survival shooter that we're planning to do a stream on. I will of course have another one of these news roundup videos next Sunday, so subscribe to not miss that, a like on this video would be appreciated, and check out the previous one by clicking on the screen. I will see you in the next video, goodbye!